Dog Park Bench. I'm so happy you're here. This is a podcast for all the dog parents, where we sit together, virtually of course, at the dog park and talk about life, struggles, education, mental health, businesses, and all of it is dog related. I'm your host, Miranda, aka the Dog Park Bitch. And today I am joined by Caroline Edmonds. She is the host of Dog Mom Mentality podcast, and she's a friend of the show. So I'm happy to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me on. This is my first time being a guest on a podcast, so I'm really excited to be on the other side of the bench.
It's always weird. I know when I did a collab with with a dog podcast, she was asking me questions like, oh shit, I have to actually talk about myself like to someone else's audience, I guess, because when it's just to someone like me talking to you, that's normal. But me talking to someone else's audience, I'm like, ooh, what do I say? How do I say this? Are they going to perceive this as me being slightly bitchy? But because that's my brand.
Slightly bitchy, slightly confident, like too confident, like, wow, that girl's kind of cocky.
Oh, yeah. So if you want to introduce yourself and your dog and then give us I'll move into the next little portion. But yeah, if you want to talk about you, your dog's name and breed, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So I'm Caroline. I am 24 and graduated college in May of 2020. So during quarantine, which was kind of fun because it was like, wow, we like get to do school from home and like everything's online. But then like I had to start being an adult during quarantine as well, which I just feel like was like backhanded slap to the face. So we live in Kentucky. Me and Layla, we live with my fiance, Bobby. He's 24 as well. And we got Layla together. It was actually more of like his idea to get a dog, and it was going to be more of his responsibility. And then as time went on and like jobs, and I ended up working from home, Layla has more so became more of my, like forte and like my hobby type of thing, like more so my interests. So Layla she actually just turned 2
I saw
this
that
past Saturday.
Happy belated birthday.
So thank you. So she turned 2 October 30th, and she's an Australian Shepherd mix, and we've had her since February of 2020. So technically she's not a pandemic puppy,
but she kind of is. I mean, like, you didn't get her during the pandemic, but she was definitely like your hobby during the pandemic kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
I like to throw that in there though, that we didn't get her after quarantine had already started. We got her and she was living with Bobby at his college house because we live separately in college. And then about exactly a month later, I think, is whenever we started seeing like the news about COVID. And then like a week later is when we actually moved back home.
Oh, cool. Okay. So I see. So we're going to move into fun, like give a fun fact about yourself. You got a couple to share, but I see you put in that Layla was supposed to be Bobby's dog.
Yeah. So she was supposed to be like more of like Bobby's responsibility. Like he was the one that was like, let's get a dog. And I was like, are you sure? He was like the driving force behind that. He's pretty spontaneous, but in a good way, and like in a responsible way. Like he's like, let's get a dog or let's get a van. And he does his research, but he's more on the spontaneous side with those kind of big life-changing decisions. So he wanted to get a dog. He found Layla. And then he went and picked her up while I was visiting my mom in Minnesota. That's where she lived at the time. So I came back and there was a dog.
That is so cool. It's okay. I don't know if anybody else gets to experience that, because usually I'm the one to bring the pets home. I'm the one who wants an extra pet. So it's kind of cool that it was Bobby's idea.
Yeah, for sure. And he was like, I'll take care of her. Like I'll do all the work. Which of course, like I would do stuff whenever I was over there, but we were planning on her living with him for, from February until we graduated in May and at his house, his college house. So he was going to do like the majority of the work just because she lived with him. And then we ended up coming home because of quarantine. So we shared basically all the responsibilities. And then we moved into the house that we currently rent together. And that's when things started to change a little bit because I'm fortunate enough to work from home, and he was going into an office, and the job that he had at the time, he was going on work trips for like a week or 2 weeks at a time and was gone like every 3 weeks, I would say on average. So Layla quickly became more so my responsibility, and I really had to learn how to like handle her, because up until then I really wasn't like disciplining her or doing like any kind of boundaries or really working with her besides little things like shake and spin and that kind of stuff. So it was pretty life-changing.
Awesome.
Um,
So I do want to move into, if you want to give us your favorite thing from 2020, and then we'll move into the interview because we have quite a bit to chat about on the bench today.
yeah. Okay, so my favorite thing of 2020. So I'm not going to say getting Layla, because we got Layla and then we moved into the house. And then from like June up until she was about a year old, we had problems. It was like a battle between us on like I didn't know how to properly like train her and fulfill her and set boundaries with her, that type of stuff. So it was like always an ongoing battle of like her trying to show dominance over me and like not listening to me, if that kind of makes sense. Um, so my favorite thing was really like taking control and starting to work with her and train her and work on engagement and different things like that. And I saw a lot of like fear reactivity from her to do more things, like basically off of our street, because up until like October of last year, we were just staying on our street, like doing the bare minimum for walks. And I started to see some of this fear reactivity and like this lack of confidence in her. And I started to work on her with that. And I was like, well, if I'm working on her to build up her confidence, why am I not doing the same with myself? Like if I'm working with her to like overcome these fears and like work on hard things and all this, like to have a better mental state for her, why am I not doing this for myself? So it really sparked some of these different passions for like mental health and self-care that I had kind of had during college, and then it died down, just because of a few different things in life. But this really kicked me in the butt and made me start again with practicing all of those things, and then evolved into me speaking about it more openly.
So I do want to move into the interview a little bit. So we can get to know you just a little bit more before we move into the bench chat. So if you want to share a little bit about how you got into the dog podcast world, I feel like that's a really fun thing to talk about whenever I have someone on who is a dog mom podcaster. So do you want to share some of that with us?
Yeah, so it originally started as an Instagram live series where I brought on, like, more specifically owners with reactive dogs, and I like asked them a few different questions about their dog's reactivity and like what they do to help and their feelings while dealing with some of those things, just to bring light to owners' feelings. And like, because I feel like if you see a dog like lunging or barking or running in the opposite direction and you don't know anything about that person, you just see them across the street, you tend to make assumptions. And some of those assumptions are like, wow, they must not work with their dog, or like they must, be mean to their dog or like, et cetera, et cetera. And so I really wanted to get it from like the owner's perspective of what they put in and their emotions and feelings whenever going through this whole journey with their dog. So I did about 10 of those Instagram lives. And then I started taking those and downloading them and then taking the audio and putting it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Then I took a little bit of a break and decided that I wanted to make it a better produced and better quality podcast. So that's really how it has evolved into the podcast that it is today. And now I don't focus just on reactive dog owners. I focus on any dog owners and how their dog has emotionally affected them and what lessons they have learned from their dog.
That is so cool. So I love that because there's so many, I don't say there's so many dog podcasts. There really isn't a ton, but I love that everybody especially in the dog mom podcasting world kind of has their own special niche that inspires them. And I find that really cool. There's not a whole lot of, for a lack of a better word, copycats in the podcast, the dog mom podcasting world. It's very much everybody's specialized in their own little like aspect of the whole podcast world. So I think that's really cool. And I really like your perspective of that. That actually kind of reminds me of when I launched like season 1 of my podcast with Shitty Dog Moms, and I had a co-host. And the reason why I named it Shitty Dog Moms was because I'm like, your dogs, you do everything you can for them. And sometimes they still make you feel like a shitty dog mom. Like you train them and you give them all the things that they need and you take them places, you make sure they have fun, and they still make you feel like you're a shitty dog mom. So I kind of like vibe with your whole like mentality per se,
Yeah, like shitty and defeated.
Yeah. Yes. Or they just give you that face and they're like, you are the worst dog mom in the entire world. You're like, I'm trying my best. Okay.
Yeah. Like I'm trying my best. So I really wanted to get it from that perspective, just because I am so like passionate about mental health. So I wanted to bring those worlds and just collide them.
Cool. So if you could give us just like a short little pitch for your podcast and why the Dog Park Bitch listeners should go on over to your site and go follow you and listen to you.
Yeah, so the revamped podcast, I should say. So it was the Instagram live series. So the first 10 episodes or 9 episodes are from Instagram. And then starting with episode 10, I believe, is when it's been like revamped. So what I'm really looking to do with it is to inspire other dog owners, empower them, and talk about feelings and emotions that you have because of your dog. So that could be like, loss or behavioral problems. And, you might feel bad emotionally from that, but you also learn a lesson, or like, you get some knowledge from going through those hard experiences. So really just talking about how your dog has affected you, or how a dog has affected you emotionally, the lessons that you learn from your dog, sharing any kind of struggles because we all have them, and celebrate any and all successes. So the first episode that I did, once it became Dog Mom Mentality, because before it was called Dog Owners Tell All. So the first episode was kind of an introduction. The next 2 episodes were really about having a growth and open mindset. And then my latest episodes are about puppyhood frustrations and some of the feelings that you have during puppyhood, whether that be like just getting annoyed about talking about poop. That makes me laugh so much.
The amount of pictures of dog shit that my husband and I have on our phones still, because why go back and delete them, is alarming. If someone were to like just steal my phone and go through everything, they'd be like, what the fuck is this and what the hell is going on?
Yeah, exactly. So like whether that be like from dog poop or like trying to figure out how you're going to like leave the dog while you go do your personal life stuff, and can't keep them in the crate for too long. And what if they have like separation anxiety and this and that? So like a lot of things go into puppyhood. I thought that was a really fun chat. But to come, there will be some things like discussing loss and rehoming, behavioral issues. And even though it's called dog mom mentality, I really hope to not scare off the men and to have a dog dad on there one day too.
I want to just reassure you that you will be able to get dog dads to listen. I have a couple, they're very few, there's not very many. Anyways, dog dads definitely listen. I know they're few and far in between, but there are plenty that do listen to, even if your title is dog mom. I felt like I was nervous when we had shitty dog moms as our title, because I'm like, oh no, then we're not really reaching everybody. It's just like the dog moms. Dog dads won't listen, but you'll definitely get some dog dads that'll reach out for sure. There are some dedicated dog dads out there.
Yeah.
So where can we find your podcast, and what days do you release on?
So they release currently every other Thursday, and you can find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Sweet. Okay. So now we kind of know more about you, and we know kind of who you are. Let's go to the dog park bench. So everybody close your eyes. Imagine that we're sitting next to each other at the dog park, and we're just having whatever. Right now I'm drinking a very bad mix of tequila and hibiscus tea. I don't recommend it. Don't question my drinking choice, please. What are you having tonight?
Just water.
Healthy.
Just water.
Does Layla play at the dog park, or is she kind of one who does not enjoy it?
Oh, she plays.
Okay.
She would run and chase everyone, anything. You could have, or you could see her chasing a dog, throw a ball, and then she would do like a beeline to the ball and then back to the dog. Like she's just chases everything.
I feel like Layla and Annie would be best friends in real life, because Annie loves to chase dogs. That is her favorite thing. And she loves running. She doesn't really play fetch. Well, she kind of does, but she doesn't understand the concept, and her attention span is not long enough for fetch. And then Oakley would probably run a little bit and then do his own thing, and Zeke wouldn't give a shit about anyone or anything. Today, we're going to chat about, we have a couple of topics, but I want to start off with kind of like your main focus, I would say, is kind of your training journey with Layla and how that's inspired you, how, the highs and the lows, and what you're kind of going through right now. So do you want to chat a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we actually like officially, well, I guess I should say, I started taking training more seriously with her a year ago this week. So it's kind of like a funny anniversary that we're doing this and talking about it. So like I said earlier, we kind of had this like back and forth battle of like how to like determine boundaries, and like not listening to me and not respecting like each other, or her respecting me. Like it was just a lot. And she also had some resource guarding with her crate, and that was kind of like the tip of the iceberg that just threw us all over the edge. So September of last year was really, really hard. And then October is when I started researching training and researching trainers and trying to get more information. And then November of last year is when I like started enforcing and working on it and trying to be a better handler. So as I started working with her more, just on various things, I started noticing her fear reactivity, which led to so many obstacles in life. And that's really been, I guess, the biggest thing that we've worked on. So she can be very fearful of sudden sounds, sudden movements, like any herding breed. And the times that, like, what I know now is that those types of things should have been introduced whenever she was a puppy to help her better like desensitize to it later on. And we did none of that because we just weren't knowledgeable of it at the time. And also because she was kind of a pandemic puppy, she didn't have as much socialization as what some dogs normally would. So that has all led us to where we are today. So lots of tears, lots of frustration. But for every bad feeling, there's been two good ones if I just pay attention to it. So something to learn, more confidence, more strength, more empowerment. And just, I've learned to not push me or her too far, and that there's no deadline for us to learn or have anything perfect. It's always going to be a work in progress. So if she's not getting something one day, I don't need to beat myself up over it.
That is the most beautiful sentence I think I've ever heard, which is there's no deadline when it comes to training. I feel like so many people, and I don't know if it's necessarily dog moms that listen to my podcast. I feel like we're all pretty like in the same boat or realm of understanding that things take time, but I feel like it's more so like the uptown people per se who get dogs and want them fixed and want them trained and want them to know everything and do everything that they say right away. And it's like that's not a you got to manage your expectations with dogs. And I feel like that's a factor in when people decide that a dog is too much for them or whatnot. They just didn't they didn't realize and manage their expectations with training and think that taking them to training classes once is all they need, or taking them to puppy courses is all they need. No, they need continued training. Zeke is still training. He's 5 years old. He's an asshole. He is the nightmare fuel to my dreams sometimes. But he's still learning and he still has to be trained. Like it's not there's no like you're done training situation, because even when they get older and they start having like health problems, you're going to have to start working on training to help them with whatever health problems there are, whether that means going to the vet more often or going up and down stairs, whatever it is. There's always going to be something. So I think that is, I got to turn that into a quote if you don't mind. I think that is a beautiful that's a beautiful thing to share. And oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I really like what you said about managing expectations. So I'm diagnosed with anxiety and, like a few other things here and there. But one of my triggers, like I'm sure a lot of other people with anxiety, is just things not going as I expected. And I even have, so I even have a quote on my arm that says observation over expectation. And it's just a reminder to myself to observe what's going on around me and be really flexible with it instead of expecting an outcome. And then just, if you expect an outcome and it doesn't happen, then that's an automatic failure for somebody that's like has anxiety and is a highly like tries to achieve, I guess I should say. And that really bothered me with Layla at first, because she wasn't doing what I expected and things weren't turning out how I thought they should be. And so I got this tattoo after we started like training and doing different things together, because she made me take this or that quote to like a whole new level of the observation over expectation. And I don't know if you can tell, but that's her I in the O.
You'll have to send me a picture of it. On Zoom I can't see, but you'll have to send me a picture of that.
Yeah, you can't
That's
see.
really cool. That's really cool.
But she like had such a big impact that I was like, yeah, if I'm gonna get, one of her eyes is like 3/4 blue and 1/4 brown. So I'm like, I'm just gonna incorporate that into my tattoo.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. So yeah, I think that is a big a big thing to think about in like the dog mom world, to just kind of go back, is just managing your expectations over everything, not just training, just like life with your dog in general, because it's so different. And if you expect it to be one way, it's definitely not going to be that way. So you kind of have to roll
Mhm.
with the punches and learn as you go, is really all I can say when it comes to that. But to hop back into training quick, we have been working. I've never been. I grew up in a Midwest town. We like, training wasn't anything more than teaching your dog how to sit, stay, and lay down, roll over, and stay in the yard. Like that's all I knew growing up. So now, being the devoted dog mom that I am, I have like gone full force into like educating myself about dog training. I'm not a trainer and I'm not sharing my perspectives
Mhm.
on training, but it's insane how much information is out there that I didn't ever know or think of, and that some people still don't even know is out there. It's
Mhm.
crazy that, oh, I could go on. But yeah, I have, Annie is reactive. She's my first reactive dog I've ever had. And so she's reactive on a leash. So that's what we're working on with her. It's a struggle. It's ups and downs. It gets better sometimes and then it gets worse sometimes. It's just never,
Yeah.
it's a never ending thing. I don't think you can ever say that you've trained your dog fully to not be reactive. I'm not sure. There's still
Yeah,
going to be
I
something that sets them off one day.
yeah, and even if they don't react, there is some form of management that is in place. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is that there will always be some form of management into, I cannot speak.
Don't
there
worry. Don't worry.
there will always be some form of management for a reactive dog. Even if it's not obvious to other people, I'm sure the dog handler, the dog owner, whatever you want to call the dog parent, is still like watching out to make sure that the dog is set up for success and that they are managed appropriately.
I am so happy you used that phrase, set up for success, because that just means that you do your homework and that you are definitely a devoted like dog mom trainer to train your pet, because that phrase you don't hear very often. But yes, setting them up for success is the best terminology to use. But okay, I could talk about training all day. So I did want to touch base with
Yeah, I'm
you.
like thinking of like 10 different things that I could like say right now that I'm like, I could just go on for forever.
I literally, I could talk about, we might have to do a like a part 2 or a follow-up, because I could talk about that forever. It's the same as me
Okay.
talking about using a fucking leash. So um
Yeah.
I do want to learn more about Aussie dog mom life, because, and don't hate me, and listeners, please don't hate me. I'm just telling you how what I was and where I am now. But I used to be very judgy when I saw, not when I saw anybody who had an Aussie, but when I saw people who didn't live a very active lifestyle and got Aussies to be their golden retriever per se as their pet. And I would, oh, Justin, if Justin was here right now, he'd be like, you never shut up about that shit. And I just, Aussies are a whole nother like type of dog that you need to like learn about, because they're not a golden retriever. They're not your yellow lab that the typical family has. So I find it very interesting to learn what Aussie dog moms go through.
Yeah. So on top of that, we didn't know what getting an Aussie entailed. Like the amount of energy. At least at the puppy stage. So my mom's boyfriend has he had an Australian Shepherd. She recently passed, unfortunately. But she was like the best dog ever. So smart. Just was an well-rounded, just very good neutral dog. And so when Bobby found Layla, he was like, it's an Aussie. I was like, perfect. Like, Tony has an Aussie and she's like the greatest dog ever. Like, let's get it. but she was also like 10 or 11. So whenever I had met my mom's boyfriend's dog, she was kind of in like the adult older stages of her life, so she was a lot more calm. And we got a puppy, and
So
she's
you were
just
kind
like
of like doomed.
bouncing.
You were like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what an Aussie is. That's what I think a lot of people see. They have to, because I don't understand. I'm somewhat ranting on a personal experience I've seen. So I'm not, please don't take this as me I'm not throwing hands at anybody listening. It's a personal experience I've
No,
had,
you
but
were totally fine with me.
there's a family I know who got an Aussie as a puppy and then realized that it was like they had it for a while and then they realized it was too much for them to handle and they sent it back to the breeder. And I'm like, so and there was a lot more that went in with that, but I'll leave it there. They just realized that it was too much for them and they lied about realizing it was too much for them. They said it was something else, which really pissed me off, and sent the dog back to the breeder. And I'm like, are you I just don't understand the concept of not doing a little bit of just a little tiny bit of research. I mean, if you see, that's where I'm sorry. My train of thought is like not here. It's non-existent. So
You're
when
totally
you're
fine.
when you're talking about seeing an older one that's really chill, that had to have been their only experience with an Australian Shepherd. If and then they didn't do any research and they went and got one because they thought it was
Yes.
super chill. Or there's always the Instagram aspect because they're a very aesthetically pleasing dog, I guess, with their little tri coat and their fluff and
Mhm.
whatnot. So those two factors I think also play a huge role in people getting them and then like, oh shit, I just bought a crackhead.
Yeah. No, crackhead is like a great word to describe them.
Sorry, I
The
cut you
only
off.
No, you're fine. Like I can only think of like a few other dogs that are more crackhead, and that would be like border collies and Malinois.
Border collies, Malinois, and people don't really think this through, but pugs/Boston Terriers, they're psycho when they're younger. When they're old, they're just always like that old
Really?
fat lazy, like what's the no bones dog on TikTok?
Yeah,
Noodle or something.
noodle.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's what people see. But when you get a puppy, straight crackhead energy. But I feel like Aussies and border collies maintain that crackhead energy a lot longer than puppyhood.
Yes. So I don't really like see Layla calming down anytime soon. But like I'm glad. But I will say, so we didn't do our research beforehand and we were not super knowledgeable about like breeding standards at the time. Now, and I will say because of Instagram, I am a lot more knowledgeable about this. But we got Layla from a Craigslist ad. And I know people are probably on the other end of this listening, like shaking their head, like, oh my God.
This is a judgment-free
um,
zone, except for me saying
yeah,
I was judgy in the past.
yeah. No, and like if you have opinions, like have them, but please know that I am more educated now. So we were just trying to find a dog in general. We were like, let's get a puppy. And so we had searched and we found some for adoption, some on Craigslist, some on Facebook, whatever. But we decided to go with Layla. And she was on Craigslist. We were told that she was going to be a mini Australian Shepherd and then or a
That's a
mini
lie.
American Shepherd. And then yeah, that's a lie. She's 60 pounds. She is humongous. Um, so we like knew right away, like they lied to us. And but that doesn't change the fact that we still like got a puppy. Yeah, she had crackhead energy as a puppy. And I think her breed or her mix of breeds like plays a really big role in how she behaved whenever I was not focused on working with her and training with her, because she had all this energy and like no outlet or no proper outlet for any kind of mental stimulation or work for her to like do throughout the day, if that makes sense. It was like 10-minute walk in the morning, and then she sat on the couch while I worked or did whatever throughout the day. And it's not what she needed. So then she had to take her energy out someplace. And sometimes that would be her bitchy attitude with me, which, you know.
That's great.
Yeah.
When Annie is, because she's my only dog that has any sort of energy. My Oakley is so chill and lazy. And Zeke, if he didn't have to go outside, he probably wouldn't. He loves to just lay on the couch and live his best life. But Annie needs something to do with her brain if she's not napping. So she sleeps she takes like 2 really decent naps because Jess and I work from home. So when we're working, she takes 2 really decent naps, but without those naps, she's up and she's pacing. And so I have to
That's about how Layla is too.
Yep. And I've got like the lick mats and the puzzles, and I try to make sure I swap them out. So she's got one thing for before the nap and one thing for after the nap. And if that's still not enough, then she likes to just sit outside and like sniff through, because where we're staying, we have a really nice patio. And it's all like rocks, like little tiny pebbles. So she likes to just sniff through all of the pebbles, and that is stimulation enough for her. So yeah, she is my first dog that's ever really needed that much stimulation and that much constant attention. And then there's some days like the weekends, if we don't plan some sort of hike, oh my God, I have to like do like training with her just for her mental stimulation, because that's what she needs.
Yeah, just to like give her something to do or think about,
something to learn.
Totally
make that brain actually work.
Yeah, totally understand
that.
Yeah.
So with Layla,
crackhead energy for sure, but also super smart.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, you're good. There's a delay.
We're like kind of going on top of each other. But I will say that Layla is like the smartest dog ever. So
I wanted to add with the breed before we move into our last little chat is like, since they're such a high energy breed and they demand a lot of, they're a working dog essentially, you know, they're a herding dog. They've got all these instincts. And if you're going to not have a huge yard, and if you're going to not have like cattle or a job for them to do, then they need all of this attention and all of this like little bonus little things that you have to do for them. And I feel like if someone, and with their energy level, if you're not younger and you're more of that older generation, I don't want to like call anybody out, but I'm just saying, I feel like they're not a very like elderly friendly breed to have, like, to be a pet parent for. Not to like say people can't have them. I'm just saying, like, from experience, what I've learned with other Aussies and with having a herding dog myself, they're very intensive, and they have a lot of energy. And if you're like someone who lives a very low energy lifestyle, they're not going to work with you.
Yeah, I would probably agree. I am very fortunate that I work from home. I really feel like that puts us at an advantage, with her being a herding working breed and just doing things throughout the day to work with her. And also just, so we didn't really know what we were getting into. However, both Bobby and I are very responsible people. So I feel like once we saw that there was like a need for change, or like a need for us to step up and do more things with her to help her and work with her, we were up for the challenge. And if you are older, you know, maybe you have kids, and like your dog isn't your top priority because you have a kid, you know, there are like things like that come up in life. And yeah, just, you have to be very active with a herding breed, and really any kind of like high energy working dog.
Yeah, for sure. That was just something I wanted to throw in, because I've realized that more now than ever with Annie. I grew up with a border collie golden retriever mix, and maybe I'm just remembering like the last couple of years we had with him where he was more calm. I don't ever remember him being a crackhead. So when I got Annie, I'm like, oh my God, he was so like chill. And she's going to be mixed with a Great
Mhm.
Pyrenees, which Oakley is the laziest dog ever. Low effort, 100%. Nope, she is high energy, 100%. Um, so when you're talking about how you got Layla from Craigslist, that kind of sparked another little chat we wanted to have about backyard breeding. Do you want to share some insight that you've learned from that?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna like act like I'm the most knowledgeable person whenever it comes to breeders. There are different accounts and resources and people that I've talked to gain more knowledge and more insight about the subject, but I do not consider myself like an expert. However, I do know that with my next dog, I do think that I will try to seek out a reputable breeder, just because I have found a lot of interest in dog sports. So I would kind of like to get a dog that could do, or that like has like their parents have done dog sports. But also just from like a genetics side, I do think that genetics do play a role in behavior. And like I don't want to say that if your dog is a purebred that they won't have like any kind of reactivity or behavioral issues, but I think that with Layla's case it does play some kind of factor. um like nature and the genetics do play some sort of factor. So I think, and especially too, I've been researching breeders and researching, what to look for in a good breeder. And one thing that has came up several times is a thing called puppy culture, which is where the breeder will um, show different objects and different sounds and expose the puppies at a very young age to a lot of different things to help them later on in life. And I think that can make a really big difference based on the research I've done and the information that I've read. But from a different standpoint, some things that have been really cool coming out of her being a backyard breeding dog. We did do an embark test, and so she's a mix of a few different herding breeds, but we found her sister, and the her
Oh,
sister's
cool.
owner and I chat pretty frequently. We follow each other on Facebook and on Instagram, and I just like to see what they're up to. And they both have allergies. And so just recently we've compared like Layla and her sister's allergies to figure out if it's like, maybe something genetic, or like if their allergies are very similar. And they both like lick and kind of nip at their paws. And I don't know. I just think that like that may be connected since they're like sisters.
That's so cool. So I am planning on doing a dog DNA episode because my family dog Rocky, he is not in the best of health, and we've always wondered what kind of breed he is, like, or what kind of mix he is. Nobody can tell. So I want to get him one. I feel like he would be probably the most interesting, but I also want to confirm that Annie is border collie Pyrenees. I know she's Pyrenees for sure, but she could be she could be Australian Shepherd Pyrenees, because they
Mhm.
also have they'll look the same with the mix. And she could be something
Yeah.
else. We have no idea. And we also want to see Oakley, because Oakley, I got him from Facebook from someone else who got him. And
Yeah.
he's Pyrenees mix, and we don't know what the mix is. So I want to do an episode, but that's so cool. So if someone else with the same like genetics, it'll let you know, or did you already know who the sister was?
No, we found um her sister and the owner through Embark.
Oh, cool. So it'll say like there's a DNA match, and then it'll give you like
Yeah.
how you can contact them, or
So you can contact like through the Embark
okay.
messaging app platform or whatever. It's like you are messaging Spectre, which is what Layla's sister's name is, or Spec's owner, and we'll message like back and forth. So they did their embark test before us. So I did it, got the confirmation that this other dog was a genetic match, and it was close enough to be either a sister or a mother, or like parent, or sibling or a parent. And then I reached out to them, confirmed that they had the same birthday, got them from the same place. And they honestly, they look so alike. And watching videos, they have really similar mannerisms. So I'm like, they are totally sisters. No doubt.
Is so cute. Okay, I have to do that. It's just like, gosh, they charge an arm and a leg for the damn DNA kits. Like,
I know, but it's worth
can you
it.
sponsor me with not Wisdom Panel, Embark? Can you please just sponsor my podcast?
Yeah.
Like, give me something. I'll give a free review. Something, whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I did the health screening too. So like Layla came back normal for everything, but she has some kind of like gene. I can't remember if it's like a gene defect, or I don't remember what it was, but she has something that if they ever were to do blood work, it could like skew the blood work a little bit. So I like just notified the vet of that. It's something that is common enough for like vets to know about, but
is that what like contributes to the merle color? Because I feel like I read something that said the merle coloring in any sort of dogs is like a genetic defect essentially.
I'm not sure if like the merle coloring is a genetic defect.
I read something.
Honestly,
The merle color throws something off, but I read something about it. I'll have to do some research. But
well, I think it does. Well, and I know that if you do like merle to merle breeding, so like if the dad's a merle and a mom's a merle, the baby dogs are more likely to come out blind and deaf. So that might be what you're thinking of.
That could be it. I don't know. It was something I read a long time ago. But to get back into the backyard breeding chat quickly before we wrap up, I do want to throw in, I think that, excuse me, I'm a huge adoption advocate, and I'm not going to judge anybody for how you got your pet, because I'm a huge believer that every dog finds their person. And no matter what the circumstances where you find your dog, whether you bought them from a breeder, you bought them from a puppy mill or a backyard breeder, however it was, your dog was meant to find you. So I don't like judge when it comes to that, but I like to advocate every time I have a chance to for adoption. But when you were talking about how you didn't really know anything and now you're more educated, I feel like that is such a good outcome when it comes to like learning about breeding and all that kind of stuff, because you said you're kind of researching it and looking into it for your next dog that you plan on getting. And I think that's a really good aspect to share with everybody.
Yeah, and I totally echo that too. One thing that I've thought about a lot is that Layla is very independent and can be very pushy. And so one thing that I worry about with her, specifically like at a younger age, is that if we were to get a dog next year and we were going to adopt, and let's say like we don't know about the dog's past, what if we bring it home and the dog and Layla just don't vibe because of Layla's personality and because of the new dog's personality? So it's something that I've thought about a lot, because I don't want to bring a dog in and like it doesn't vibe and they don't get along and things just turn out messy. I don't want to have to take that dog back, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure.
And so I feel like if I got a puppy, it's a better likelihood of being a good mix with Layla and her personality, especially since, we're kind of thinking of it like within the next 2-ish years. So she would still be pretty young. Like she'd be like 4 and 5, like between 4 and 5 years old. And so, yeah, I really just don't want to, like, it sounds bad, but like, I don't want to take the risk with a dog that I don't exactly know its past and its upbringing. And then it just end up being a very like emotional, like stressful situation.
There's
So I
so
feel like with a
much,
puppy,
there's so much that goes into adopting or like fostering or rescuing dogs. So
yes.
like I said, I don't judge anybody. I just try to, anytime I have a chance to advocate, I do. But I completely understand when people go to breeders and are looking at reputable breeders. I 100% understand. Everybody comes from a different background, and everybody comes from a different need or want when they're looking at adding a new dog to their home. So
For sure.
I like adding a puppy. Yes, that 100% makes sense. And I get that 100%. And also you said you want to get into you said
Some different dog sports.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know people where I'm from that look for, like, they get hunting dogs, and you got to have a certain breed and a certain yeah. So that makes sense. Like I'm not here to shit on anybody at all. Like I said, every dog finds their human, and everybody has different needs, but it's an important conversation to be had. And I like that you brought that up, especially with saying, like, you're very honest saying, like, yeah, we got her from a backyard breeder. A lot of people, I feel like, would be too, like, they don't want to say that, because now knowing what they know, they're like, I don't want to say that. But it's important. I mean, Oakley, I'm pretty sure, came from a backyard breeder. We rehomed him, but I'm pretty sure originally he came from a backyard breeder. So,
oh yeah, I will be open and honest about that. And actually, Layla's sister is a rehome. So an elderly lady got her, and then the owner currently, they like Spec was rehomed to the current owner. And actually, it's so funny because before the current owner got Spec, which is Layla's sister, the elderly lady that had initially bought her had named her Layla.
okay,
Isn't
that's
that
like
crazy?
That's a Matrix thing.
Yes, so crazy. So crazy. Whenever they told me that, I was like, you have got to be shitting me. They're
That's
like,
insane.
no. Yeah, it's so insane.
So I am going to move and wrap up a little bit, keep this on the shorter side. So thank you so much for coming on the show. This was awesome. I chatted with you previously, and before we even talked about doing this, I'm like, you know what? I got to have her on the podcast because she's so well spoken. I love your Kentucky accent. Are you from Kentucky? Like originally?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the accent you have, because that's so cool. When you said paw, I was just like, the way that you said it is so cool. Like, it's so cute. It's like an accent that I don't hear very often. Are you there?
Because where are you from? Are you from like Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hear different accents whenever I talk, but when I heard you say the word paw, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's got such like a unique like draw with her accent that I didn't hear when I was in Texas. So I just had to throw that in there. Funny. But thank you.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Thank you for being on the show. This was fun. And anybody who's listening right now on Apple, please, for the love of God, just give me some sort of rating, some sort of review. I'm not going to tell you what to leave me, whatever seems fair and honest. And if you are listening and you love the content and you want to support the show financially, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee account. You can buy me just 1 cup of coffee, or you can join my my membership, which is $6 a month, and I release exclusives. Last month we had free stickers and a bonus episode, and we're on track to do the same thing for this month. So if you want to check that out, it'll be linked in my bio on Instagram, and it's also linked in the show notes for your ease of access. And if you want to follow us, you can find us on Instagram at the Dog Park Bitch, and you can find my dogs at Zeke and Oakley. And then if you'd like to throw in where we can find you,
Yeah, you can find me at Dog Mom Mentality. And that's also the name of the podcast.
Awesome. And I'll have that linked in the show notes as well. And if you're listening today on Apple, please check out, because it'll be linked, check out Caroline's podcast and give her a 5-star rating on Apple as well. Help a sister out.
Thank you.
So I'll see you next. Gosh, everything's getting fuzzy. Hold on. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Dog Podcast.